Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, and this is episode 360, and that is translated to 355 weeks in a row. We've had 5 extra broadcasts, and every week we have great guests. We have great people to talk to about the fun of real estate, and our objective is really to give back to the communities that we've been serving and working with as coaches, as real estate agents, as everything. This broadcast is brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Align team. Mike, welcome for coming, and thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Hey, man, this is gonna be really exciting. I want to talk to you because you are, with all due respect, not the normal guy of the coach, right?
Yeah, not really.
And we're gonna get into some stuff. But before we start, let's go to that videotape, Nelson. We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution. And here we are. It is April 18th, 2025. It is Good Friday today. So happy Good Friday.
Happy Good Friday.
Happy to everybody. And it's a good weekend up here in New Jersey. We've got some really nice weather starting. Still a little chilly, but we got some nice weather starting. It's probably nice down by you, eh, Mike?
Beautiful down here today, mid-60s. Can't really beat it. Sunny out. It's awesome, Georgia weather.
So today we have Mike Costigan. Mike Costigan, he's not your typical real estate coach, as I alluded to already, because he really wasn't a typical real estate agent. As you'll hear when I ask Mike about his journey and stuff, he did not really want to do things the way everybody wanted him to do things, right? Before coaching nearly 60,000 agents across the country, Mike's built a powerhouse real estate business from the ground up. Like, he became the #1 listing agent, the largest single RE/MAX office in the world at one time, consistently outselling entire teams at times. Mike is not big on fluff or fairy dust. He teaches agents how to become expert marketers so they can scale their business without burning out. As the founder of a multiple high-performance coaching programs and the creator of Come List Me Calls method, Mike helps agents become the hunted, not the hunter in their market. Like I always say, I don't want to chase people. I want them to chase me. Mike,
that's right.
Welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to Real Estate Talk TGIF.
Thank you, Dave.
Hey, man, so as we get started, I want to have some fun today. I want to talk to you, but I always start with a really fun question that I ask everybody that comes on the broadcast. What does TGIF stand for?
I know what it typically stands for, but I know you're going to hit me with this one. Thank God it's Friday, because it is Friday today, but go ahead. What is it?
That is really close, Mike, but just like 95% of the people that do come on this broadcast, it is an incorrect answer. The correct answer is, and it just works out this way, thank God it's finale. So
it's finale. There you go.
So there it is, man. So there it is, right?
I rarely get taken, but you got me.
I got you there, man. So anyway, so Mike, I talked about you and your past and stuff, but I really want to hear about your journey, because then everybody says, well, Dave, you just read it out, what I did, what I've done, where I'm going. But the point really is, Mike, is there's ups and downs. There's thought processes that go through decisions that are made by you and whatever you do. So please tell me your journey. Give me your journey. The stuff that hits home with everybody that needs to hear it.
Yeah, I'm probably that guy, Dave, that wasn't supposed to be successful, right? By everybody else's standards, right? The kid in the hall in school talked too much. Talking kind of worked out really good for me at the end of the day. Right. I went to college for a couple of years purely because it was the thing to do. Went down, partied a couple of years, left there, living in mom and dad's basement. My mother is a little firecracker. Drove her absolutely insane that I was there. I was bartending, right? And so she looked down one morning and she said to me, "You want to get a real estate license? I'll pay for it." And so my motto was always, "I'll show you," especially with mom. So I did. And, fortunately, my journey along the way, though, I had always been, my dad's a great salesman. Sales is just kind of in my blood. And, I've done everything, every kind of nose to nose, toes to toe selling you can do. Newspapers, door to door. You just get dropped off on a street corner in downtown Atlanta, and banging on doors, selling newspapers. I sold cars. I sold telemarketing as a kid. I don't know, I just got into the sales thing. I was always number one at everything I did. And I got really obsessed with marketing before I ever got into real estate, and particularly direct response marketing. And so, yeah, I thought, what the heck? Let me jump into real estate. And I, quite frankly, like you said, I'm kind of different than the average guy. I sat down with my broker and I realized a fabulous guy. The guy was awesome as a person. But I realized, as far as like building a real business, that he, like everybody else, didn't know what they didn't know. They knew nothing about marketing. And so I played the game for about a month, and then I just turned on what I knew how to do, which was market. And I just, things took off from there. And I just, I'm a guy, I just don't believe in the whole school thing and the course. It's great for some people, I guess, but I don't believe I think skills are more developed in real life. And for me, this is a fun life. It's something I can control what I do. I spend all my time with my wife and my kid, and it's, I've gotten really good at creating leverage, and, mostly through the marketing aspect of it. And that's what got me into this coaching, without getting too long winded here, is like, I love giving back to people. I love being able to transform the way that they're doing or not doing.
So you got your real estate license. You went in. Your broker was telling you exactly what you got to do. You got to do.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that first day, that first time you went in, and he's telling you how to grow your business.
I was mind blown. I mean, I'm telling you, mind blown. He sat me down in a cubicle, and he handed me a stack of blank cards and said, "Send these to your sphere of influence." Now, I was 22 years old, and out of my sphere of influence, if you want to call it that, I was probably the only one that was actually going out trying to make something of myself. Most of them, I said to him, they're probably drinking beer right now. Some of them are probably smoking a little weed. They're not going to buy anything with cash and a cosigner, right? So I thought, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. And then, it was I remember the Tuesday office caravans, right? The hold open houses for other agents who know better, right? Oh yeah, it was that typical journey, and sadly, I think that's what's still taught in real estate today. Right. I don't hold it against brokers. I don't think brokers are really, I've rarely, if ever, met a broker who is a really great marketer, right? Who understood that's a key component of business. They're doing what they were told to do. The pattern just never broke.
Yeah, no, exactly. So so he tells you to do all that stuff, and you said you didn't want to do that. So what did you do, and how long did it take you to get your first business?
I shouldn't say I didn't do it. At first I sent out that round of cards, and I did get one of my mother's friends call me and congratulate me about being in real estate, and told me her story about being in real estate, where she obviously had quit. So it really wasn't productive. What happened was I just decided I was going to do what I knew how to do best. And marketing is, and I consider marketing, everybody thinks marketing is just a marketing piece you send out, or a billboard or a radio ad. To me, marketing it's really any communication you have with any prospect or any past client. Anybody could send you business, whether it's a phone call, an in-person conversation, an email, a text, whatever. And so, I knew how to talk the talk, and I just, I started it on the phones. Then I started creating marketing pieces and sending out. Next thing you know, I had like 11 listing appointments, and they looked at me like, "Well, how did you do it?" And I said, "I'm just marketing." And so they put me, and I said, "Now what do I do? I know nothing about listing houses. I know everything about marketing." And so they set me up with a girl who was supposed to be kind of the guru. And oh man, I swear to you, I went on, this is what the appointment was like. We walked through the house, and she looked at the guy, and she said this. She goes, "Well, we think we're the best, so call us when you're ready." And at that point I went, "Oh,
holy shit.
Done." Yeah, done. And I just took it from there. I took the reins. I left there. I went to Remax. I worked with a partner for a while, which, the old saying, right? The only ships that sink are partnerships. We should have never done that. Right. I actually was in it for a year, and I left, went back to selling cars, made a ton of money, went, "What are you doing?" Got back into real estate. I went over to another Remax office, and it was just fabulous office. And I just let it loose. I turned loose everything I knew how to do, high leverage stuff. And ironically, Dave, when I did this working part-time, it got to be quite funny. At first I didn't, right? I almost ran myself out of the business working 80 hours a week, but I quickly learned how to just create leverage. You start with the marketing and build stuff behind it. So it's a fun journey for me, frankly.
So when we talk about marketing, we typically don't think about making phone calls. You said marketing is any communication. So So help me here. So that's also making phone calls. Are we talking about for sale by owners? Are we talking expired? Talking a circle? What are we talking about?
No, I think anything. I'm not a believer in that kind of stuff.
Really?
Well, Dave, it's not scalable, right? And that's really the challenge that real estate agents have. This turnover rate in this business is tremendous. Unlike any other business, except maybe working at restaurants, right? It's
Right.
A lot of people look at it that it's like, hey, they fail because they don't make any money. And that's true. A lot of people don't make money in this, but it's also true that they get burned out. I don't think anybody really, when they dreamed of getting a real estate license, I don't think their thought was, hey, I'm going to go put on my Nikes and I'm going to walk around and bang on 700 doors today and come home at night and want to collapse, right? I don't think anybody thought I want to be a professional telemarketer. You don't need a license for that. It's not scalable.
Right.
We have this old saying, right? And me and some old colleagues always had this saying. We're all the top guys in our markets. You can't scale a hero. No matter how good you are, you're going to run up against the limits of time. So while I would say, those are high leverage activities, talking to people, you can only really do that until the point where it gets in the way of you doing the real high leverage stuff, like learning and implementing marketing and putting the systems in place. You got to run it like a business, right? Nobody teaches you that.
So, okay, you got to run it like a business. You've got to do the marketing to bring stuff in. So nitty gritty, man. What does an agent have to do? Okay, so there are agents out there that don't want to cold call. It's like they have this fear of getting hung up on. We call it call avoidance.
Yeah.
So what is the process? Talk to me about the process that you talk about in your programs and how you coach.
Okay, and that's a really good fear they have if it gets them to stop doing it. It's the kick in the butt you need, right? I think if you have that feeling in the back of your head, you shouldn't do it, right? You're not going to be good at it, and you really shouldn't do it anyway. So look, it's really simple. And, it's funny because I've had months where, especially when we had REOs in that last downturn where I've listed over 100 homes in a month, working part-time. And I'm going to tell you how I did it. We start very basic, right? So you have to know in your marketplace. Look, here's kind of, I think, the progression of a real estate agent. They do all that stuff we've been talking about, right? They realize it's not working. They realize, hey, we've all heard this list to live, right? But nobody takes any, gives any credence until it's too late. And then they go to the broker and the broker says, hey, well, they say, look, I can't do this. I want to get some listings. And the broker says, go pick a farm. So now here's how agents do it. They choose on emotion, right? Oh, those are beautiful houses. That should be my farm. So nobody stops them. They usually blow all their money first round on disinterested prospects. So the formula is really simple, right? It's find them, get them to call you, pre-close them over the phone, and then just go take an order. And it sounds very simplified, but it really is that simplified. I mean, there is, I always tell people it's kind of like a Rolex, you can copy it, but you got to kind of know all the little things inside working together, all the intricacies that really make it work. But in a nutshell, we got to find the people in your marketplace that are most likely to give you business. And we got to find as many of them as close together as possible. And look, here's the trick. And this is where agents, I think, are afraid to do marketing because they think it's super expensive. You start off super small. So you have to create this, I guess the best way to put it is a shark in a puddle effect, right? Agents like to just spread their money around, spread their marketing around. They get a deal here, deal there. It has no residual effect. You can't create marketing campaigns like that. You have to have marketing campaigns that are constantly creating authority for you. They're building your authority. They're building your trust. You send something out, you get some business. It's building authority. It's giving you residual business in between. And then you send something out and it takes you to the next level. And the simplest way to do that is to find a nice little cluster of people. And so what we do, we look at 3 data points. First of all, you take emotion out of everything, right? This is a big deal in real estate. Our opinions don't matter. Everything should be run on data. Every business that's successful runs 100%. On data. They all know their numbers, right? So all I do is we look at turnover rate, competitive saturation, and we look at proximity to each other. So we just find this cluster of people. I'm going to give you the short version of it here because I could talk about this for 3 hours, just this subject. But we just find this cluster of people that live close to each other so that when we're hitting high probability sellers here, and what I mean by turnover rates, we're hitting high probability sellers. Well, the money we spend on these people, they're the most likely to give us the most money back. So if you got one neighborhood that's got high probability and you're getting listings here, and then you find one down the street that's getting listings here, here's where probability comes in. Proximity comes in. they don't just get the benefit in their neighborhood, they cross-pollinate each other. And so now you just find 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 neighborhoods very close to each other, or small pockets, whatever you've got in your marketplace. And look, the brain works on symbols. I know a lot about psychology and NLP and hypnosis. And the people start naturally associating you with the person to list houses with. People are crazy lazy, and that's what you got to play on in marketing, right? They don't want to have to think, who should I hire? They don't want to interview 3 and 5 agents. They want to go, Bob and Susie picked Mike, so that should be our pick too. And the more signs you got in a smaller area, the more likely people are going to call you. And these are called come list me calls. And you can get it just that way. Now, the marketing is the real trick, but it's just such a simple, I'm so passionate about it, but it's just such a simple, logical thing. Be the big fish in the tiny little pond, period. No other agents are just not consistent with their marketing. You think they are. You could do mediocre marketing with just this one piece of it, and you'll get come list me calls. You'll be the guy. And it just builds and builds and builds.
All right. So I want to go into a couple of things here, right? Because what I don't want to do is say, this is what you got to do, go do it.
Yeah.
Not the information, because look, I was with a legacy brokers for years and years. You go to these events and they just say, this is what we did, this, and they never tell you how we did it.
You're hyped up. Right.
They don't tell you shit. They don't,
Nope.
And it's like, it's a waste of time. What I do, the people I work with, I want to give details. So the details, you said 3 data points. What are they?
We look at turnover rate, competitive saturation, and proximity to each other. So in other words, we're grouping the highest turnover rate neighborhoods. We're finding the most high turnover neighborhoods in as close proximity to each other as possible to form a cluster. And we're just eliminating any neighborhoods. And generally what I tell agents, it wouldn't scare me, but as a new marketer, I wouldn't typically go in a neighborhood where it's saturated more than 30% by another agent. And you got to have real data for that, right? If you got three houses sold in a year and each person has sold one, that's not relevant, right? But if you got a neighborhood where you got 20 and you got some guy who's done like 8 of them, okay, well, that's going to tell you it's going to be a little bit harder to penetrate. But here's the real secret. It's the marketing itself. It's the messaging. You're going to get a lot of people. I run into this every day. They go, well, I've done this mailing. I've done this. Everybody's done all that stuff. It's that you did it wrong. So that's where the messaging comes in.
There you go.
So there's our formulaic approach to just finding here's another benefit to it. It keeps your costs low. It minimizes your downside, right? Because you have all these high probability people, you're going to get the highest return, but within that cluster, you still got people that didn't fit our formula for marketing. So we're not spending money, but you start picking them up for free. Now we got 0 cost of acquisition mixed in with our clients. It's such a simple, logical thing.
So it's turnover rate,
competitive saturation,
and proximity to
each other. Yeah.
Okay. So with turnover rate, we've got such a crazy market today. I mean, look, last year, compared to other years, we sold like 1 million less homes in the country.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, we're seeing those inventories go up this year. Thank goodness.
So how does that affect finding that area that's got a turnover rate? I mean, what should the turnover rate be?
This is the golden question. I get this all the time. There's no answer. There is no right number. So, I'm glad you asked, because this is a critical part of it that agents like to skip. I look at my whole wide area as a whole, right? So I take, for instance, I live in Cherokee County, Georgia, and let's just, I guess, for example here, let's just say I could work all of Cherokee County. That would be what I call my wide market. I would first do the turnover rate for Cherokee County. So I would go, and by the way, when I look at these turnover rates, we don't go back 1 year. We go back a minimum of 2 years to make sure there's not some anomaly. So what I would do is I would look at Cherokee County first, and I would figure out, okay, this was the turnover rate this year. This was the turnover rate last year. If they're similar, that's good enough. I average them together and I got it. If I got one that's at 2 and one's at 11, I know I got an anomaly. So I'm going to go back years 3 and 4, and I'm going to eliminate the anomaly, whether it was the 11 or 2, and I'll do the average and I'll get it. So there's your right number. Whatever your wider area is, that's your baseline. So when you start looking at the little pockets, the little subdivisions, you never want to accept anything below average, because why would you do that? It makes no sense, right? To get to 5, let's say it was 5, for example, you got to have 1s and 2s in there, but you also got to have 7s and 8s. Find your 7s and 8s, your 5s and 6s, 7s and 8s.
So, all right. So let's break this down now again to something else where the county's your overall idea. And I get that.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily always do it that way, but just for simplicity's sake here. Yeah.
So, but one of the things, every part of the country is different. Okay. And what I mean by that is, in Georgia or other states, they have these areas which everybody calls, what subdivision do you live in? Right.
Yeah.
In New Jersey, we don't have that. Right.
Parts. Yeah. You
We've
have
got
to.
towns. How do we break that down from a subdivision? How do we break? Do we go to? Is it the town? Is it streets in the town? What do we do?
You tell me, what's the smallest area in your marketplace that you could really break down into a little cluster? Like not the cluster of all of them, but what's the smallest little pocket you could break down? And this is where I always say, and this is a man for years, like you have to have a perfect blueprint, right? But you got to be so flexible in your approach because not everything's equal. I will tell you, the marketing is universal. However, the way you formulate this is going to be different, right? There are some places where, yeah, people will just do street after street after street. There's some places that they'll break it down by, city. I mean, some people it's more rural and expanded, and they might do a zip code, right? You got to break it down to the smallest chunk you can, and you've got to know it in your marketplace.
Right. So really, and in case anybody out there wants to correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, here we've got to do it by town. I live in northern New Jersey, Bergen County, Passaic County,
Yeah.
Essex, Hudson, etc. I mean, now it's easier, in the urban areas where there are buildings that have
Right.
hundred units, right? That's a little different, right? So I mean, there's buildings with hundreds of units. I have friends that they own the market share in those buildings in Hoboken, Jersey City, etc. People I work with on a day-to-day basis. So in here, when we're talking about a town. Most of the towns, the population is going to be between 10 and 15,000, as a population. So I think that's probably the right number, the right area.
Yeah. Like I said, it differs, right? There is no universal way to break it down. When I'm coaching agents, I say, you got to know your market. You got to figure out, and this is you doing some critical thinking. How can you break this sucker down to the smallest possible chunks so that we can feel like we can saturate? Simple as that. Look, here's Dave, look, the big thing you just have to avoid is spreading yourself too thin. It is by far the biggest mistake that I see agents make when they come to me. Brand new agents who've just started this and people who've been doing it for 30 years. Now there's all these services like these predictive analytics, right? And they'll say, oh, this guy over here is going to move. This guy over here is going to move. But do you see the problem with it? Great. They're not all right, and they're usually not right. But let's say this guy over here does sell. You're a one shot in and out. You're going to make your money and that's it. It'll have no residual effect. And so you're always spending more time and more money trying to bring up the next. This is the key point to take away from this. Listings breed listings. The more listings you can get in a small area, the more you're just naturally going to get. They're going to get cheaper to get. They're going to get easier to get. People are going to naturally call you. I'm telling you, like, it's so funny when you see it start working. It's just like it just grows very naturally. And that's like, and then here's the even better part. Once we've got that great marketplace and we do saturate it and we do own it, well, you've already creating natural presence around it. So, when you start to hit diminishing returns on your marketing spend, well, we just expand the area a little bit and you just grow it out. Or you look at another pocket and you go over there. The recipe is so simple. So it's so simple. It's so logical. I can't believe people don't do it.
So one of the reasons I think that people don't do it in areas such as mine is it's difficulty getting the data, or they don't know where to get the data. I mean, is Remind where you get the data for the individual?
That's a great place. RPR is a great place. Most of your MLSs have all the tools that you need to get the data. And that's another great point. You don't want to get, we don't need this paralysis by analysis. This isn't an exact science,
Absolutely
right?
Not. Correct.
I'm going to tell you the analogy that I use. So my little son, Casey, and I, we go fishing together. And I have this bass boat. I've got so many electronics. I could tell you within 120 feet where all the fish are. Now, if there was 200 fish on this side of my boat and there were 2 here, where do you think I'm most likely to get a bite, right? These are the hungry fish, right? I tell Casey, if I cast over here, throw me in the water, son. But yet that's what most people do. I call it playing blind darts. They just throw it out there and they hope it sticks. And, here's the sad part about it is, even if they did luck up and pick a nice fertile area, which, by the way, most agents, when they come to me, they think they know their area is more fertile. Rarely would I have somebody that if I had them sit down and do the analysis, wouldn't they shift some of their marketing spend? I mean, I don't even remember one person that hasn't done it. You have to... The tricky part is now you got to know what they want, right? You have to know what these people want. And The data, it's the same way there. We'll figure out what they want, but I don't care that this is perfect. I just want it to be like, I just want you to have this fertile area so that our efforts aren't wasted on trying to be like this great copywriter. I've been copywriting for more than 30 years. I'm pretty sure I could write a really great message. But no matter how good I am, if I'm fishing in a pond where they're not biting, nobody's going to say, "Oh, Mike sent this great piece. Let's move." That doesn't happen.
So let's talk about that agent that's just getting started out, that wants to get into this marketing and do this, right? So when we're talking in I'm going to use my area, right? We're talking a town. We're talking about, a couple thousand homes. That's a lot of money. How are we going to break it down? What's the number? Is there a number to start with?
Yeah, and that number is called very, very small. And what I mean by that is, look, nobody can afford a marketing campaign that's not driven on data and predictability. Look, the goal here is to find the perfect little audience, to find out what these people want, and then to write the messaging around what they want. Show them that you're uniquely qualified to deliver what they told you they wanted in the first place. Like if I know what somebody wants, right, it's a lot easier to sell them something. So then what I do is I take that marketing piece and I actually just do it with agents. It's like we call me anti-typical, right? I'm not a typical agent. I'm not a typical coach, right? I don't give you a canned stuff. I just say, hey, let's just do it together. And I show you how to do each little piece. So what we'll do is we'll create a piece. We'll create the headlines, add, sub-headlines, add copy, call to action, put the piece together, and then we'll start testing. Testing everybody. It's funny because this younger generation, right? All everybody's ever heard is split test, split test, split test. Yet nobody does it.
Right.
All we do is I would take a postcard, Dave. I'd make two different versions of it, two identical versions of it, and then I would the same message, but I would write it in a different way on each headline, and I would send out maybe 100 here, maybe 100 here, and the key is you have to eliminate as many variables as you can. So if you have a cluster, if you're in an area like Atlanta where we have subdivisions, right, and you have these cluster of subdivisions, go to the same subdivision and test, right? Because you want the same houses on the same date, eliminate variables, send out 100, 200 maybe at the most on each side, and you watch to see what gets you the best return. So now, sooner or later we figure out, okay, this is the winning headline. So then round two comes, well, then we put the same identical piece, both with the winning headline, and then we vary the subheadline. I'm telling you, Dave, when you get to that point, when you've just got the winning headline and subheadline, you'll outmarket everybody in your marketplace. Real estate marketing, look, I'm not a guy that believes in talking negatively about anybody. It's not a great way to live, I don't think.
Right, exactly.
However, you have to recognize that real estate marketing, it really is like sheep following each other off a cliff. What does everybody say? What do they say? How many number ones are in your marketplace?
And I'm telling you, I was just going to get to that question, man. You segued perfectly into this. I see this shit all the time. You see it a lot more. You see it. I see it a lot more because I recently moved to a different area. I see it a lot more here, where I'm getting these huge postcards about, I'm known as the number one agent. I'm this, and honestly, I see your marketing online. Because we've connected in a lot of different ways, and you see the number one agent knocking on the door with the big number one on their back. So Mike, okay, so we both agree that that's a message that is not really pertinent, but it also impresses people. Number one, it impresses the agent, right?
Yeah, it impresses the agent. It doesn't impress people. They don't care. That's the hard nut to swallow for real estate agents. And look, it's a simple shift, but it's not an easy shift. Stop thinking about you, start thinking about them. As you make that shift, it all changes.
So all right, so let's talk about. I want to stay on this kind of a topic now. I talked to an agent earlier today about my objective is I'm in production. I want agents to work with me. Because I want to help people and I want to coach them. And that's the way I do that. Right. Yeah. And, the person says, well, the reason I got this listing was because I used my company name.
They're wrong, but okay. Sure.
Well, yeah, exactly. Okay. So there's no question there. You answered it before I got
so you see where that is so dangerous because sometimes agents will do things that they think work, and they work just enough sometimes for them to keep doing it. And then eventually they figure out, holy shit, what am I doing? I'm broke, right? I see it every day. It's ridiculous. People, look, here's the thing. People do not care about you. They don't care how much experience you've had. They don't care how many houses you've sold. I could go in and say I've sold thousands and thousands of homes. I was the number one guy at the world's largest single office. They're over there going, I don't give a shit. What can you do for me? Look, that's the oldest adage in direct response marketing, right? Prospects listen to one station, WIFM. What's in it for me? And I always tell agents, when you learn how to write marketing that clearly conveys to them the great benefit that they get when they list their house with you, that's when they'll line up like you're the proverbial guy at the top of the hill. They'll line up for miles to do business with you. I couldn't even begin to tell you, Dave, how many listings in my career that I have taken from family members, right? Like literal, close family, immediate family, next door neighbors, friends, the little tennis team partner, because they don't care about, at the end of the day, I'd love to think that this world is all rainbows and unicorns. Everybody likes helping everybody the way that I do and the way that you do, but that's factually not true. The world, a very good friend of mine passed away about 1.5 years ago, and a very wealthy, very wise guy. And the first thing, and one thing always stuck with me is like, Michael, always remember this. He goes, the world operates on personal interest. If you remember those 2 words, you can sell anything. And I said, I already know this. Name was Alan. This is what I do in my marketing. This is what I teach people. Speak to what they want. And here's the other thing. You sell on wants, not on needs. So you might need a great agent. You might need somebody who has a team. You might need somebody who gives this, quote, white glove service. You might need somebody who does staging, but that's not really what they want at the end of the day. You have to chunk it up. Like, what do they really want at the end of the day? What do they really, really want? And this is a place where agents screw up as well. I actually ask people. I've got a way that we do this. I know enough about how the human mind works. I can write these little surveys that people actually respond to because they don't think it's and we do it over the phone because it sounds like they're doing goodwill for the neighbors instead of being telemarketed to. So it's one of those triggers in the human mind. It just works. Won't go into that. Well, but we find out what they want, right? They probably would, if you asked anybody, a seller, if I said to you, Dave, I said, perfect outcome when you sell your home. Like, what do you really want at the end of the day here? Are you going to say, oh, I want the number one agent in Cobb County? No. You're going to say, I want to get the most damn money for my house, or I want to get this house sold in 2 days, or I don't want all the headaches that are involved with all of this stuff. Right. And so then we just find out what they want and we just write our marketing pieces accordingly. When I said this is where agents screw up, agents guess. Like, I do this routinely in my group, my highest level group, where people go, well, I know, I've been here for 30 years. I already know what I want, so I'm not going to do this. And I say, okay, so I'm not going to help you anymore until you do it. Go do it. And I was telling you, they'll come back and they'll go, damn it, you're right. I go, really? So they're like, here's a common assumption. Well, they all just want the most money. And I say, okay. And I'm watching these markets change, right? Tightened up over the last couple of years, really, really tight. And they'll come back and they'll say, oh God, they just want to sell fast. And I go, oh, really? Really? Why? Well, because everything's dropping and they need to get it done, get it over. Oh, really? So now we'll write an ad that says something about selling the house fast. And we might tack on some kind of guarantee or some mega social proof or something. And we'll talk about selling the home fast so that they can get the most money, right? Because we're hitting their highest thing. Because even though that's really what they want, at the end of the day is the most money, the thing that's really keeping them awake at night is that selling it fast, because these houses are sitting, So boom, you can try it. We'll even test it backwards and see which one works. But at least now we know what the hell these people want. I've been copywriting for a long time. I start a marketing campaign today. There's no way I wouldn't ask. You know what I tell people? It's so funny because it's like a focus group, right? You see these toy companies, when they make toys, do they just say, oh, this is going to work? No, they bring in 50 kids in a room, throw a bunch of toys and see which ones they play with. As simple as that. It is really that simple. But the craft is really in the marketing itself. I've been doing it for, I guess, more than 3 decades. So it's very, very natural to me. And that's the skill that I look, my goal is to teach agents how to be the marketers. They don't have to pay for these silly coaching programs, right? They don't have to keep spending all this money. They can do whatever the hell they want. Agents, when they come through with me, they don't even need me at the end of the day. I'm there to support them, but they don't even need me. You can take your business anywhere you want. And the marketing's universal. So it doesn't matter if you're selling $10,000 pieces of crap down in downtown Atlanta with no plumbing in them, right? Or if you're selling multi-million-dollar mansions, you might tweak a word or two here and there. But the concept and the method, it just works. And if you think about it, it's just smart. I'm just telling you, Dave, I'm going to give you what you wanted. Simple as that.
So you mentioned a magic word. The magic word was guarantee. Okay.
Uh-huh.
We've all seen these guarantees, right? We've
Mhm.
seen them in marketers. I've seen them with your stuff. I've seen them with a lot of other people, right? I'll sell your home in 36 minutes, or I'll do it for free, or
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So how do you position something like a guarantee, Mike? How do you do that where you're not going to get hurt if it doesn't work?
Yeah, I'm going to make one little comment on that first. It's very risky for agents to do that if they can't substantiate it. Let's just say you've got, let's say a guy has put out a thing that says, hey, if I don't sell your home in X amount of days, I'll give you $50,000, right?
Right.
If you ever got questioned on that, could you really stand up in court and say, well, I got 50 listings. I'm promised to give them all 50 grand. If it doesn't sell, you'd be in real trouble, right? So that's where agents get themselves in real trouble. You have to be able to substantiate. That's FTC stuff. Got to be. So
is
nobody gets
substantiating it with conditions?
Well, no, I mean, you couldn't possibly do that, right? So it's a bullshit promise.
Right.
You promised to buy a house. If you got 50 listings and you can't buy the house, could you really buy that? Could you really substantiate that? You're making a bullshit guarantee. You get in trouble. Now, how you can protect yourself, first of all, I don't give anybody a canned, like, here, everybody do this guarantee. We look at your market and then we write something that's in your comfort zone, right? It doesn't have to be a crazy guarantee, but to answer your question generally, yes, we write all the rules for everything that we do. And here's the thing, they're not one-sided. There's got to be some risk for you, right? Because it's got to have value for the client and it's got to have value for me. But let's take something really simple. Let's just say I promise to sell your house, I don't know, in a certain period of time, or I would allow you to cancel your listing agreement and go list with somebody else and waive any obligations you have. No penalty. So it's a classic risk reversal, right? Which we know is one of the best sales techniques, period, since the beginning of time, risk reversal. So I might write in the rules, before I get into you know what, let's talk about the rules and then I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. I might write in the rules, okay, you've got to list the house at an agreeable price between us, right? If the seller receives an offer that's at or greater than the acceptable, we would agree on what an acceptable sales price would be up front. We'll put that in the agreement. Then I might say something like, and this is off the top of my head, I might say, well, if the seller receives any offer at or greater than that price, then, well, his right to cancel for me is relieved because I've done my job. Or if they fail to negotiate in good faith, so I get some kind of jerk, which don't kid yourself, you'll get them. Then that their responsibility is waived. Or let's say you can put all kinds of stuff. The house has to be available for showings at this time. You've got to be paying me X% commission or fee or peanuts or whatever you charge, rocks, I don't care. Just anything that really, so it's two-sided, right? I'm in good faith going to do my job. You're in good faith going to do your job as the seller to get it done. And so what I might put in there is I might say, okay, let's just say I said 15 days for argument's sake.
Right.
I would probably put in a condition that says, hey, seller has the right to, between day 16 and day 18, to cancel in writing. Beyond that, if the seller doesn't cancel, then this right to cancel is waived. And because they understand that the broker or agent's going to incur a lot more fees and a lot more time involved. So if they don't cancel, well, then we're good. So all you got to do on that one, that's a simple one. Load up look, people will stay with you, frankly, if you just call them, right? Be proactive. That's the biggest thing you hear, right? So load up your 15 days with ridiculous service. There's no way they're going to leave you. There's no way they're going to leave you, especially if they've listed with another agent. But here's the thing. Even if they do leave you, who cares? And you might go, what do you mean who cares? I lost a listing. Not really. Remember when I told you at the beginning here, I said listings breed listings? Think about how many more listings you get with marketing like that than you get with Joe Blow here, who sends out his I'm number one. Dave, it would be weird for me to get like less than 10 times the response on direct response marketing than it would for here. And let's just take that down a little bit. Let's just say I got 8 times the response. And let's say I got 5 times the response.
Right.
If I had 5 listings and this guy lucked up and he got 1 and I lost 1 here, who's winning? I'm 4-1 here. I lose 2. Who's winning? I'm still 3-1. I've spent the same money, right? But it gets even better because you could take this all the way down here to 3. You could even take it all the way down to 1-to-1. I'm still winning. You know why I'm winning? Because listings breed listings. Because now when you got people who are in your area, remember dominating that area, shark in the puddle, this is the shark in the puddle. And when people are driving through thinking about selling, you think there's this thing in your brain. It's called the reticular activation system. It's that thing that focuses you on, that totally gets your focus zoned in on something that's already top of mind. So if you're thinking about selling, you're paying attention to who's got all the signs in the neighborhood. Do you think the people who are going to be selling next are going to be calling this goon with his 1 or the guy over here who's got 5? And what happens is listings breed listings, and this 5 turns into 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, and it just grows and grows and grows. You cannot lose. It is impossible to lose doing this.
Right.
So like, I think people's psychology, oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, why? Look at the net effect. It's huge. Huge. So, but here's the thing. You're not going to lose. You're not going to lose this. You're not going to lose that. You might lose 1. Could lose 1. You might lose 2 at the most. Right? It just doesn't happen. People stay with you. They're too lazy to go get another agent anyway.
So let's use that L word from your first listing, leverage, right? So leverage is, look, I tell you what, I mean, I think it's the most underrated word in the English language when it comes to your business and growth and everything else. What are you using to leverage? I mean, for me, I'm leverage systems and processes. Now we're talking about leveraging our marketing, right? So we're going to leverage our marketing. So we've done our mailings. We've gotten that one listing. How do we start to leverage that one listing that we get?
Leverage it in terms of
getting the next listing.
Okay, it's not, I don't think it's, when I'm thinking about leverage, I'm thinking about systems and processes and people too. It all starts with the marketing, right? Well, okay, yes. I'll give you a tip. Okay, this is something I would tell the agent to do. So here's an old school method that works really, really well. And it goes back on what I was just telling you about that reticular activation system.
Yep.
You know the term circle prospecting we've all heard?
Yes. Yep.
Right? What do people do? They pick up the phone and they call everybody within a certain range of a listing, right? And that's a smart thing to do, or a house that just sold. It's smart because it's got the antennas up of everybody around it. Do that same great marketing around a ton of those houses, right? In the time you can pick up the phone and call the people around one, I can just blast them all with a great message that no matter what you say is going to totally crush them. It's going to totally crush it. I'll get all the listings. And I say this with confidence because I've just done it so many times. This is what leverage is, right? It's like you should leverage. I have a very, very, very smart person. We were just talking recently about AI. He's with a really high-tech company. He's a 7-figure guy. He says, you just got to leverage everything that's not scalable. Door knocking's not scalable. Cold calling's not scalable. Take some of these old school processes and leverage it with marketing. And then the marketing, it builds you this. It's where everything starts. It gives you the opportunities to now start creating leverage with people and systems and start offloading the below the line stuff that can be done by other people to a good enough is good enough standard. Start moving yourself up into only the above the line stuff that is only the stuff that only you can do and only the way you can do it. The CEO stuff, the marketing, the people and the systems. Start creating a real business behind it. And it just snowballs. I laugh because I know, it's this daunting thing when you think about it at first, but when you have this way of building this, and it eases agents' minds and it actually makes them get a whole lot more done. Instead of looking at it as this huge task, I got to do this and I got to build out this team. We break stuff down into these, I just call them baby size bites, right? So that they're so consumable. We go, what's next great opportunity? How can I break it into the tiniest little baby-sized bite, and so that it's so consumable that no matter what comes your way, any distractions, you're going to get it done that day with a little bit of effort, right? It's just needle-moving stuff. And it's really cool because you get this sense of accomplishment, and you wake up the next day, and you're kind of juiced to do the next thing. And then here's what happened. There'll even be days when you feel like I'm not doing enough, but you got to realize you're just doing needle-moving stuff. You're eliminating all the fluff, all the bullshit, right? Which is mostly what people do in real estate and in most business. It's bullshit. These little bites turn into these big chunks. Next thing you know, your competitors are standing there with their jaws dropped in utter disbelief going, where did this guy Dave come from? Right. They don't see it, right? They're not even paying attention, man. I laugh because I know the process, and I know once you get on the other side of it, you're going to go, oh, I cannot believe that I've done this for this long. It's transformational, and it's just marketing. The rest is simple.
We're talking about marketing around everybody's listings, not just your own.
Look, that's not where I take people too much in my coaching, unless, private conversations, because you want to make it as simple for people as possible to have success. But sure, why wouldn't you? Why would you not do that? You know, look, this is okay. Now I don't want to cross any ethical lines. So let me just start with this statement here.
Right.
I say a lot of dumb shit. And before you do anything I tell you to do, you can just ask my wife, she'll tell you. But before you just do your own due diligence. But you know, you can't market directly to expired listings, right? Well, what if you had this really great message and you marketed to a couple streets and a couple expireds happen to be on those streets, a couple listings that were been on the market for a while. Right?
I want to clarify the question, Mike. I want to clarify so we're all clear. Is that I'm not telling you to market from other people's work. I'm talking to you, I want you to do the work and
100%.
be that marketer of information. Right.
That's it.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about doing anything unethical or anything.
No,
and that's what we're talking about. Just because I wanted to clear up the question.
It's not unethical. It's that I know as a real estate agent, you could pull those expireds off of the list. Pull those listings off your list. I'm not saying to target them.
Right.
If they're expiring, I might, maybe they're on my list, but I'm not going to listen. The idea is it goes back to what I was just telling you about, like that reticular activation system, right? These people, when you see a neighbor, if you're somebody that was thinking, you know, just a little twinkle in your eye, like I see that sign, maybe I'll sell, right? But you're really not giving it any serious thought. Well, the minute a couple neighbors put their houses up for sale, or even one person down the street, you live on the other end of the neighborhood, right? And you start driving by and you see that, it gets it going in your brain again. And then all of a sudden you're seeing it again. Then you're really going on. What about the person that's thinking, hey, you know what, we're definitely going to be selling in March or April or November, December, and then they see other people putting their stuff up. Well, then that's all they focus on. That's called being, you want to create top of mind consciousness with those people. And you want to do it with a great message. You don't brand yourself with you. You don't brand yourself with your company. You brand yourself with that message that answers all of their questions right up front. You solve their problem with your marketing. Look, I had this mentor many years ago. I'll never forget these words. They're his, not mine. But he said, if your marketing doesn't close the deal, your marketing sucks. And I went, interesting. And I was still thinking to myself, I'm still going to have to go do that dog and pony show. Nah, he was right. We got ours so dialed in that you really would have to screw up to not get the listing. I completely removed myself from even taking listings. The marketing got so good. Yeah, we target hot areas and hot people and people who are thinking about, we know that their antennas raised about selling. High probability areas where there's a bunch of houses for sale, streets and neighborhoods where we're seeing people putting houses up. I mean, you just know the buzz is already there. So you got to be on top of it. You got to be top of mind with people who are already thinking about a particular topic. And it's just that simple. It really is that. I make it sound really simplistic. There's, it's trickiness in knowing how to write the message and how to put all the pieces together. You got to have, I hate the word funnel. You got to have a simple conversion system to where if you don't get the come list me call off of the marketing piece, you've got to take them down another place where they can get more information. And it's got to be done really skillfully so that you're just taking them deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole where they are like almost, it almost commands them to take action at the end. And once you get that little bit dialed in, once you've done it once really well, I'm telling you, like I can't even watch TV with my family because I'd look at these commercials and I go, these people are idiots, right? You figure,
I've been there. Yes.
Yeah. And you'll look at what other agents are doing and you're going to go, you want to stop them and go, please don't go to the post office with that. Let me just burn the $100 bill for you. Right.
Some of the commercials you mentioned, you see, oh, it's such a nice commercial. And then I say to the person I'm watching it with is, what was the product?
Yeah. No idea.
If you don't know what they're selling, how can you buy it?
Yeah, no idea, right?
Anyway, hey, Mike, this has been a fantastic thing, and we could go on forever. And as I said, I like to get to the nitty gritty of things when I have people to talk to that have the expertise that you do. Your expertise goes wide and far from what we even were able to get into, and I'm lucky enough to be associated with you. And I want everybody to know we've got Mike's my contact information on there, his Instagram, his email, his website, and Mike, you've got a book called Come List Me. You've got the Millionaire Agent Academy. What would you say to that agent that needs some help, that newer agent that needs some help, that agent that shit, I hate these calls. I hate making these calls. People hang up on me. Or like, what would you say to that agent for them to get started? What would be your tip or two?
The first 2 words would be stop it. Just stop it, right? Stop doing that. You know, you can book a call with us. And I don't mean this to be an advertisement, but the way I do this, we genuinely will not bring somebody into anything that we do if we don't think it benefits them. And most importantly, I give these 2 qualifications to my team. It's got to be somebody I get along with so I can have fun with it, and somebody who's just going to do the work, right? So you can book a call with us. It's you get freeagentcall.com. You'll get to one of my team members, right? By the way, I don't have this massive team of just telemarketers. I have like super high quality, just to handpick people that will talk to people, and they'll tell them what their options are. And if we can't help them, we'll give you a good resource. At very least, we'll give you a recipe that you can start using. It's doesn't cost you anything, 15, 20 minutes. And we'll just have a chat with you. We do think we can help you. Hey, great.
We've just put that up, preagentcall.com.
Yeah, I was looking. I know I had approved these URLs, but there's not a my.millionaire. It's just Millionaire Agent Academy. But really, look, you can also download our book. I think we got it online for like $4 just to kind of cover some of our ad costs. That's at comelistmebook.com. You can go there, get yourself a free copy of the book. We also have a free trial of our marketing software. We've got all the AI and all that stuff. Oh man, what we've put together. I don't know. I know we got to get off here. Oh, I laugh at what we've got together for agents with automation right now. I go, God, if I had that, oh my goodness, the numbers, that's instant leverage, like instant leverage for you. We have an AI system that's and it just comes with everything that we do. So free trial on that too. So I would say talk to us probably first. And if you want to grab the book first. You want to try the AI first, try it first, but eventually book a call at freeagentcall.com. And listen, if anything, we'll be very straightforward with you. I'm a very, very no BS guy, and I command my team to be the exact same way.
And, I can vouch for that as well. So we've got it on, we changed it up. We got it on the screen, freeagentcall.com, book.com. So Mike, I've got just 2 other things before we can finish for today. One is a question. The other is a comment. One of the questions is really simple, Mike. How do I help you grow your business?
Oh, I think you're helping me right now, Dave. You know what? The thing is, how I've built everything that I've ever done in this side of the business. I was asked to start coaching years ago. I like to give stuff away, man. And you're creating that channel for me to do that. I give away a lot more than I ever sell. So for me, this is great.
Awesome, man. And I just want to do a quick promo. Next week, we have the Senior Vice President of Fidelity National Title, Louis Hamner, coming on. Now, it's not that he's a title company, but this is a mindset guy. This is a guy that does some different things that I learned and was able to meet with him out in an event I was at in Salt Lake City called Spring Break by Spring Benson, who Spring is also going to be on. She's coming up in a few weeks. We also have Brian Charlesworth, the CEO and founder of Sishu, coming on in a few weeks. So we've got a lot of great, and Brandon Brittingham. We've got people from all over the country, all over the globe coming to join this broadcast because you know what? We're really good at what we do. And on that, I want to say, Mike, thanks for coming on. Don't forget, we got the hat coming out to you real soon. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a great Easter weekend. God bless you all. Mike, thanks for coming on. Please stay on for a second as we finish out. Nelson, hit the video.